Hello everybody and welcome to Nathan on Shuffle and to my latest episode of New Music Weekly. This is the show where I give you guys the top 5 prog news headlines for the week, introduce you guys to some cool new prog singles to listen to, and talk about the channel and what's going on here on Nathan on Shuffle. So this should be a good episode today. It's a jam-packed week full of a lot of big headline news items in the prog sphere, so I'm excited to get into it. It's October 27th, 2023. And I don't want to bury the lead. Usually I start talking with some new releases that come out this week, but I've decided to talk about the Dream Theater news first, because that's what everyone's talking about, the buzziest news that's come out recently, maybe the biggest prog news headline this year, or for the last several years. This was a big news headline, for at least in my sphere of prog influence and knowledge. This is something that was completely out of the blue and unexpected for many of us fans. This is the Dream Theater announcement that Mike Portnoy is returning to the band, which is just remarkable. He's been away from the band for quite some time at this point. You know, his last record with them was Black Clouds and Silver Linings, which I believe came out in 2009. So it's been quite a hiatus from Mike's time with the band. You know, he's been off with a bunch of other projects in the meantime: the Winery Dogs, Neal Morse Band, Transatlantic, Flying Colors, Sons of Apollo. So there's been a lot of projects in the meantime that Mike Portnoy hasn't been involved in. But it seemed like at the time the split was a little bit tough, and there was some bad feelings perhaps from band members, and it just didn't feel like they would ever be able to reconcile their differences. But apparently over time, you know, time heals all wounds, and they've been collaborating here and there recently. Mike Portnoy did the Liquid Tension Experiment 3 album with Jordan Rudess and John Petrucci, so that was a great chance to collaborate. Mike Portnoy also worked with John Petrucci on his latest solo album, so they've been on good terms, working together musically, and he's reconciled with all the band members in different ways through different social media posts, and seen them, you know, interacting in different ways throughout the past year or two. So it seems like they're finally ready to get back together, get the band back in its form from before Mike Portnoy's departure. So it should be a really cool thing to look forward to what they'll do now that they have Mike Portnoy on board. It looks like they're going to be working on a new studio album not too long from now. Of course, it's a little bit sad and maybe lesser talked about that Mike Mangini is leaving the band. You know, he's been on drums ever since Mike Portnoy's departure, and they've had quite a cool run of albums. I know there's some mixed opinions about the post-Mike Portnoy albums, but I think there's a lot of solid material, and I think Mike Mangini did an incredible job, especially live. He's a great drummer, just technically brilliant. So he's done really well with the band. But it seems like they're ready to bring Mike Portnoy back into the fold, and it should be an exciting time. Of course, great move marketing-wise, because this news has been all over the place. So there's been way more renewed interest in Dream Theater over this past week, as this has been circulating, and everyone's been so excited about it. So it's really cool. Pretty much all the band members gave little excerpts, little quotes about how they feel about this and how excited they are. Mike Portnoy says, "I am overwhelmed with joy to be returning home and reuniting with my brothers. There's so much shared history between us all, so many memories, so much music. To think we're coming up on 40 years since this journey began. The idea of creating new music together is so exciting, and I absolutely cannot wait to hit the road and get to play live for a whole new generation of fans that weren't ever able to see this lineup before. There's no place like home." So really cool statement from Mike Portnoy, and the band is just seemingly really excited and really looking forward to what they can produce and create together again. So really fun announcement. I'm super excited. My only lingering thought about all of this is, what does this mean for Mike Portnoy's collaborations that he does with Neal Morse, now that he's so involved in the Dream Theater world again? And of course, he did collaborations with Neal Morse while he was still in Dream Theater, so it's nothing too new, but it does feel like, will he be able to devote and dedicate as much time as he did with especially the Neal Morse band? And now things are starting to line up and make some sense, because there was an announcement that Transatlantic was basically done with this Final Flight tour they did recently in the Absolute Universe. And there's a lot of question marks of why are they calling it a day? Why does it seem like they're calling it quits with the band when they could do more stuff in the future? Maybe this was playing a factor. Maybe Mike Portnoy was already mulling over this move to go back into Dream Theater, and that it was just too much to take on and continue with Transatlantic. There could be other more personal reasons between the band members that we just don't know. It's a lot of speculation, but I wonder if that played a role. I feel like recently Sons of Apollo basically announced that they're pretty much done. I think there was an interview with Bumblefoot or something that they were pretty much going to be done as a band, and now that makes more sense with this announcement that Mike Portnoy's moving back into Dream Theater, probably won't be doing Sons of Apollo anymore. But the Neal Morse band stuff is probably the biggest question mark because, they're still an active band as far as I know. They haven't put out a record since Innocence in Danger, which came out in 2021. And so it felt like it was maybe about time for them to start working on a new album. But with this announcement, I'm assuming that's probably going to be pushed out a little bit while he works with Dream Theater. So it may be a while till we hear more Neal Morse band. But it does seem like the members of Neal Morse band are continuing to say that, no, we're still a band. Don't worry that Mike Portnoy's leaving. We're still going to continue as we have been. We've always been able to work around Mike's schedule, so this should be no different. So should still be an active band, and there should hopefully still be Neal Morse band content in the future. But it does give me pause and question a little bit of what the activity will be like between Mike Portnoy and Neal Morse now that he's focusing so heavily on Dream Theater. But aside from all of that sidebar, this is just super exciting news in the world of prog. I'm super excited to hear what these guys come up with. And it's just a fun, exciting time to be a fan. And I will certainly be looking forward to a tour as well. I'll definitely be more incentivized to want to go out and see them live, to see Mike Portnoy playing with the band again. Another question I've seen pop up is, will they play some of the Mike Mangini era stuff on tour now that Mike Portnoy's back? So that remains to be seen if they do that material, or if they focus more on their classic material. And with the new album coming out, with the new material from the new album, I would assume that's probably more the case, but it could be interesting to hear Mike Portnoy's take on some of the Mike Mangini era tracks that they came out with. So, and I don't want that to get buried and lost, that Mike Mangini did a great job. I already mentioned that, but I like a lot of those Mangini era albums. I thought A View from the Top of the World was probably the best Mangini sounded in the whole Mangini era, and I thought it was a really strong record. I'm a big fan of A Dramatic Turn of Events, which I think is a really fantastic record. Maybe his drumming isn't quite as pronounced on that one. It feels more like he was just playing along with like what was already planned for demos and things like that. So he didn't really get to give much of a creative stamp there, but I felt like he was evolving and getting better and better with the band. So a little bit sad to see him go, but this should be a big event that all prog fans should be excited about, to see Mike Portnoy return to the fold of Dream Theater. So that's my take on the Dream Theater news. I know I'm a little bit late to the party. Everyone's already been able to weigh in on this for the last few days, but I wanted to save it for my typical New Music Weekly show and give some extended thoughts about it. Now on to headline number 2, where I'm going to talk about the new releases coming out. There's a couple of really cool releases. Let me know in the comments any I miss. But the big 3 that stand out to me from my tastes in music is Pattern Seeking Animals' new release, Spooky Action at a Distance. This is their 4th studio album. I did a review on it this week, so go check out my review if you're interested. It's basically the logical step forward from Spock's Beard a little bit. It contains a lot of those Spock's Beard members, but in a new context and with a little bit of a fresh sound to them. So really a great album to check out. Also, Glass Hammer released their new album Arise, which is more of a sci-fi concept record. This is an American prog act that's been around for a long, long time, been active about 30 years. They do an album every year or two, so they're very prolific, and they always do these big concept records. I'm going to do a review of this week, so I'm excited to talk more in depth, but it's a really cool sci-fi based concept record that I think would appeal to lots of fans of progressive rock, maybe some bits of like heavier hard rock, and even veering slightly into metal, but only tastes of it, some psychedelia, some space rock, all of that stuff baked into this progressive rock stew of cool music. So excited to talk about that one. And then probably lesser known, but still a cool album, Closure in Moscow released their album Soft Hell. This is more of a modern proggy pop type band that has a lot of cool different influences. I learned about them through my connections with the Deer Hunter, so they're more part of that like indie prog type newer scene. So really cool album to check out from them as well. They call it noisy progressive pop rock with a strawberry twist on their Bandcamp page. They're a band from Australia, so definitely a cool new album to check out from them. All right, moving into another super exciting headline that I couldn't help but talk through is Moon Safari sharing a new single, Between the Devil and Me, their first single from their long-awaited album that's coming out in December. December 8th, Himmelbacken Volume 2. It's been a long time since their previous record, 2013, I believe, is when Himmelbacken Volume 1 came out, so it's like 10 years later, they're finally coming out with a record. It's been very highly anticipated, and this new single is just off the charts amazing. I recommend checking it out. It's on the top of my Prog Singles list. If you want a link to it, it's in the description. Just a wonderful single that showcases the best of the band, a little bit of an 80s twist, but still has their signature harmonies and that big epic symphonic style sound that they're known for. So excited to hear this record. It's going to be monumental, I think, and I'm going to definitely cover it heavily on the channel. So really excited about that one. That's one of my most hotly anticipated upcoming albums that I think everyone who watches this channel should run and check out when it comes out. So please check out that single if you're so inclined. It's incredible, and it's just a wonderful band that deserves all the attention in the world. Another artist that deserves all the attention in the world, item number 4, is Neal Morse announcing his new album, The Restoration, Joseph Part 2, and his new single, Cosmic Mess, which appears to be the opening track for this new album. Really cool new track. It's also in the Prog Singles list. It's really interesting that he's coming up with Part 2 so quick off the heels of Part 1, which just came out seemingly a couple months ago. I believe it came out in August. Mid or later August this year. So this new Part 2 album is coming out in January. So it's going to be one of the first big prog releases of the year of 2024. January 12th is that release date through Frontier Records. It's available for pre-order now. It's really cool. And of course it has that music video type thing for the first track, video by Christian Rios. So it's linked below, as I mentioned, in the description. So that's a cool one to check out and listen to get a feel for the album. So it concludes this Joseph and the Technicolor Dreamcoat type story that was started on Part 1. So it should continue down the same lane. A little bit of that like musical theater, Jesus Christ the Exorcist feel, but I feel like it's more in line with Neal's solo prog stuff, with just little touchstones of that musical theater type stuff that he likes to throw in to give it an extra flavor. So should be good, and something that all fans of Neal Morse should come to enjoy. A lot of guests on this one. It appears Nick DiVirgilio, you'll hear on this one, Ted Leonard, Matt Smith, Ross Jennings, late Jake Livgren, Alan Morse, plus members of Neal Morse Band like Bill Hubauer and Eric Gillette. So a real big all-star list of collaborators on this, but of course front and center is Neal Morse doing his thing and playing his music. So, of course, one of my favorite artists, so one of my most hotly anticipated new albums for the new year. Excited to hear how this tale concludes, because Part 1 felt like a little open-ended, and so it's cool that it's getting a bit of a conclusion here. And then I've got item number 5, Pink Floyd announced a special edition release of Atom Heart Mother. This is their 1970 album, their first ever number 1 album. This is going to be released through Pink Floyd Records on December 8th. The new reissue, originally released in Japan in 2021, features footage of the Atom Heart Mother Suite performed at the Hakone Aphrodite Festival, held in Japan on August 6th and 7th of 1971. So this should be a cool little bonus for people who are picking up this special edition. Film has been upgraded from a recently discovered original tape, includes behind-the-scenes mini documentary, So it should be really cool. It comes out in a special 2-disc package in a 7-inch gatefold sleeve containing the Adam Hart Mother album on CD and a Blu-ray disc featuring footage of Adam Hart Mother from that festival. And the set also includes some cool memorabilia to check out. So a lot of cool stuff there to check out if you're a fan of Adam Hart Mother. Should be a cool special edition package to enjoy. And then a bonus item, and it's funny to call this a bonus item since this is also fairly big news, but I put it bonus just because it's not really prog centric like all the other things. This is more just music at large. The Beatles announced their final song coming out, set to be released November. This is the 2nd at 10 a.m. Eastern with a video to follow November 3rd. This is being billed as the last Beatles song called Now and Then. The track features vocals from John Lennon recorded on a demo in the late 1970s. And then in 1994, his wife Yoko Ono gave the demo to Paul McCartney, Ringo Starr, and George Harrison, in addition to the demos of Free as a Bird and Real Love, which appeared on their anthology project back in the 90s. So it seems like we're going to be getting a new song in that sort of vein with John Lennon and his vocals being included. So should be a really cool track. It's being released as a double A side single paired with Love Me Do, their first single from 1962. So a cool juxtaposition of their very first single and then their final single. So it's a little bit emotional to basically call it an end to the Beatles in a way, you know. I mean, you know, the Beatles has been technically over since, 1970 or whatever. But, it's their last probably new material we'll ever hear from the Beatles. So it's a pretty notable thing to talk about. And in addition to that, they're also releasing 2023 editions of the 2 compilation albums they have, the Red Album and Blue Album, on November 10th, featuring versions mixed in stereo and Dolby Atmos, 4 CD and 6 LP collections that are available for pre-order. As I mentioned in my top 10 albums that changed my life, those red and blue collections of the Beatles were really where music started for me. So I'm excited that those are coming out in refreshed versions with some extra tracks and all of the bells and whistles. And I'm excited to hear what the Beatles cook up with their new single. So should be a really cool thing if you're a big Beatles fanatic like me. So and the Prog Singles list, to go through it fairly quickly because I know this is a long show. Moon Safari's Between the Devil and Me is the top prog single this week. I mentioned it in my little rundown of news items. Definitely check that one out. Of course, I also have Neal Morse's Cosmic in the list, the opening track from his upcoming Joseph Part 2 album. Pattern Seeking Animals track Clouds That Never Rain from their recently released album. It was just released today, so that's the latest single from it that I think gives a good indication of what to expect from the album. Jethro Tull came out with a single, Wolf Unchained, that was from their earlier album Rock Flute from earlier this year. It's a new animated video for the single that you can check out. The band recently announced that alternative mixes created by Bruce Sword of the Pineapple Thief have been made available on streaming, so that's part of why they're releasing a new single here, to bring attention to those alternative mixes that are out there. Pliny has a new EP coming out on December 1st called Mirage. The first single from it is out now called Ember, so I've linked that. A great instrumental prog from a prolific, very technical, cool guitar player. So that should be a cool one to check out, a good single. And then a bonus single, maybe not so much prog, but one of my favorite groups, Everything Everything, released a track called Cold Reactor, which is going to be on their upcoming album coming out March 1st called Mountainhead. So that's more in a poppier vein, but still interesting music that I think prog fans could enjoy because there's a lot going on and they're a little bit more adventurous and interesting than your standard pop act. But cool stuff all the way around. Just a super exciting week of amazing news items. That Dream Theater news just floored me. It was something I just did not see coming. I haven't been this floored by news since probably Mike Portnoy leaving Dream Theater, and also the transatlantic reunion that happened around the Whirlwind was another big announcement that just didn't feel real because it was just something I was so excited for. And I feel similarly about Mike Portnoy rejoining Dream Theater. And I know a lot of my fellow YouTubers are feeling similarly, so that's very exciting. As for the channel itself, I had double reviews this week, both albums that I absolutely love and adore and recommend to you guys to check out. One is the Pattern Seeking Animals Spooky Action at a Distance, which just came out, so it's available and out there for you guys to check out if you are so inclined to check that one. Also, District 97, Stay for the Ending. I love this album. Leslie Hunt on female lead vocals, a great American prog band that deserves a lot more accolades. They have a little bit of a quirky, almost King Crimson, darker feel to their music, but it's super varied, super fun, has catchy hooks and good sections, but also very technical and very proggy and very, very technical and cool. So definitely check that out if you haven't yet. Check out my review where I talk a lot more in detail about it. It's an incredible record. And this week on the channel should be really fun too. Like I said, I'm going to get into that Glass Hammer review and talk a little bit about it. So that should be a cool one to look forward to. Jana will be back with me to do some more reacting this week to a really cool gem of a modern indie prog track. So that should be fun to check out as well. And just a lot of fun things coming up. Some great albums in the near future and a lot of cool things. So thank you guys so much for joining me on this episode. Hope it was fun for you guys to get the rundown of news items. I know a lot of these are things you already know about, but hopefully it's fun to get my take on it. And maybe there was some hidden gem in here you may not have heard of. So thank you guys so much for all of your support. And it's been incredible. I love hearing from you guys, and it's been such a great ride on this channel. So excited for what's coming up and excited to keep delivering the news to you guys. So thank you guys and enjoy the music. Bye everybody.